The small blue light on Lily Bennett's monitor blinked 3 times. She might have missed it if she hadn't been staring at that exact spot for the last 4 hours of her shift. Lily sat up straight in her chair and adjusted her uniform. The monitoring station orbiting Jupiter was usually quiet. Most days, her job involved watching empty screens and filing routine reports. Not today. Computer, analyze signal pattern, she said, her voice breaking the silence of the small control room. The screen in front of her filled with dancing waves and numbers. This wasn't normal space noise or radiation. The pattern was too regular, too purposeful. Lily's heart beat faster as she ran the standard tests. After 20 minutes, she was sure. This was an artificial signal. Someone or something was sending a message. Lily's hands shook as she opened a direct channel to Earth Command. This is Communications Specialist Lily Bennett at Jupiter Station 6. I need to speak with a duty officer immediately. Within an hour, every major computer system on Earth was working to decode the strange signal. It wasn't like the few alien communications humans had received before. This one was broken, fragmented, and seemed to repeat with increasing urgency. Dr. Alan Rodriguez hadn't slept in 3 days. As Earth's leading expert in alien languages, he had been rushed to the Central Command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. As soon as the signal was confirmed, his eyes were red from staring at screens, and his desk was covered with empty coffee cups. I think I have something, he said to the room of tired analysts. It's not a complete translation, but I believe this is a distress call. Admiral Frank Holloway walked over to Rodriguez's station. At 62, Holloway had seen humanity's first steps into the solar system and had commanded forces during the Mars conflict 10 years earlier. His face was lined with experience, his gray hair cut short in the military style he had maintained for 40 years. What can you tell me, Doctor? He asked, his deep voice calm despite the tension in the room. Rodriguez pointed to the screen. The message comes from a system about 17 light years from Earth. They call themselves the Verisians. From what I can piece together, they're under attack by something called the Corvin Collective. The Corvin have already taken 3 worlds in their system, and they're asking for our help? Admiral Holloway raised an eyebrow. Why us? We've barely left our own solar system. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. That's the interesting part, sir. They're specifically asking for us because we're from Earth. The few alien delegations we've met have a name for humans behind our backs. They call us Deathworlders. Deathworlders? Holloway repeated, Yes, sir. Earth is apparently classified as a death world by galactic standards. Too much gravity, too much radiation, too many predators, too much competition for resources. The conditions that shaped human evolution are considered extremely harsh. We're stronger, faster, and more aggressive than most spacefaring species. Rodriguez paused. The Verisians are peaceful. They weren't prepared for war. They need Deathworlders. Admiral Holloway walked to the large window overlooking the command center floor below. Dozens of military personnel moved with purpose between stations. On the main screen, the strange signal continued to play, its pattern now taking on a new meaning. A cry for help. How long would it take us to reach them? Holloway asked without turning around. With our newest Hawking drives, about 14 months, answered Commander Diane Wright, the head of fleet operations. We could send 5 battleships and support vessels. Holloway nodded slowly. Gather the Joint Chiefs. We need to make a decision. 3 days later, Captain Grace Warren stood in her quarters aboard the UEF Intrepid, Earth's newest and most powerful battleship. At 39, she had risen quickly through the ranks due to her brilliant tactical mind and ability to make difficult decisions under pressure. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her blue eyes studied the mission briefing one more time. The door chimed. Enter she called. Lieutenant Commander Peter Nichols stepped in and saluted. "Fighter squadron leaders report ready for your address, Captain." Warren nodded. "Thank you, Peter. I'll be there in 5 minutes." After Nichols left, Warren took a moment to look at the small photo on her desk of her father in his old Navy uniform. What would he think of his daughter commanding Earth's first interstellar combat mission? She straightened her uniform and headed for the briefing room. 500 crew members sat in the large assembly hall. They fell silent as Captain Warren walked to the podium. Behind her, a screen showed the partially decoded distress signal. "Men and women of the Intrepid," she began, her clear voice carrying to every corner of the room. "In a few hours, we will lead Earth's response fleet to answer this call. We will be the first humans to engage in combat beyond our solar system." She paused, looking at the faces before her. Young and old, from every nation on Earth, they waited for her words. "The species that sent this message calls us Deathworlders. They fear our strength, our adaptability, our aggression. Today, someone needs exactly those qualities. But we will show them that humans are more than just survivors of a harsh world. We are protectors. We answer when others call for help." On the lower decks of the Intrepid, Chief Engineer Kyle Winters supervised the final checks on the Hawking Drive. The massive engine would bend space around the ship, allowing it to travel faster than light. It was humanity's greatest achievement, and also their newest. This would be its first real test at such a distance. "All readings normal, Chief," reported one of his engineers. "Good," Winters replied. "Keep monitoring the containment field. Any fluctuation? I want to know immediately." In the medical bay, ship psychologist Olivia Martinez reviewed the crew's psychological profiles. A 14-month journey followed by combat would test even the most stable minds. She had developed new protocols for this mission, including regular Earth hours, where crew members would share memories and stories to maintain their connection to home. At the communications center, specialists worked with Dr. Rodriguez to improve their understanding of both Varisian and Corvan languages. If they could speak with their allies and understand their enemies, it might make the difference between victory and defeat. Admiral Holloway's face appeared on screens throughout all ships in the fleet. This is the moment humanity steps onto the galactic stage, not as explorers, but as defenders. The Varisians have asked for our help, and Earth has decided to answer. Carry out your duties with honor, protect each other, and remember what you represent. The hopes of two worlds go with you. As the final countdown began, Captain Warren took her place in the command chair on the bridge of the Intrepid. Around her, the most advanced technology Earth had ever created hummed with power. Ahead of her, the view screen showed the other ships of the fleet moving into formation. "All ships report ready, Captain," said her first officer. Warren nodded. "Signal the fleet. Begin Hawking Drive sequence." The stars on the view screen began to stretch and blur as space itself folded around the Earth vessels. The message that had traveled 17 light-years to reach them continued to play throughout. "The command centers of the fleet, help us. They come without mercy. You are our last hope." Humanity was answering. 2 months into the journey, the Earth fleet moved through the darkness of deep space. 5 battleships, 12 destroyers, and 7 support vessels traveled in tight formation. From the outside, they looked like a small cluster of stars moving together. Inside the UEF Intrepid, Captain Grace Warren studied the latest reports from the ship departments. The Hawking Drive was working better than expected. At this rate, they might reach the Varisian system in 12 months instead of 14. Warren walked through the corridors of her ship. Crew members nodded respectfully as she passed. She made these walks daily, believing a captain should be seen by her people. She stopped at a viewport and looked out at the endless black. Somewhere out there, a civilization was fighting for. Survival, waiting for Earth to arrive. On the training deck, Lieutenant Commander Peter Nichols watched his fighter pilots run through combat simulations. Sweat poured down their faces as they operated the controls of the simulator pods. Again, Nichols ordered after the latest run. The Corvin won't wait for us to shake off our space legs. One of the pilots, Lieutenant Paula Sanchez, pulled off her helmet. Her dark hair was wet with sweat. "Sir, we've been at this for 4 hours, and we'll be at it for 4 more, Nichols replied firmly. "We don't know what we're flying into. We need to be ready for anything." Sanchez nodded and put her helmet back on. She understood. They all did. They were the first humans to fight an alien enemy. There would be no second chance to get it right. In the science section, Dr. Alan Rodriguez worked with his team to improve their understanding of the Varisian language. The distress signal continued to come in, growing weaker but providing new information each week. "Look at this," Rodriguez said to his assistant. "The Varisians have no concept of personal violence. Their language doesn't even have words for many weapons or combat tactics. How do they defend themselves?" The assistant asked. "They don't," Rodriguez replied. "That's why they need us." Chief Engineer Kyle Winters spent most of his time monitoring the Hawking Drive. The device was a miracle of human engineering, bending space to allow faster-than-light travel. But it was also new technology, and Winters worried about potential failures. "Chief, I'm seeing some unusual readings in Section 4, called one of his engineers." Winters hurried over and checked the monitors. "Increase power to the containment field. We need to keep the space-time bubble stable." The engineer looked worried. "If the bubble collapses while we're in transit... It won't," Winters said firmly. "Not on my watch." In the medical bay, ship, psychologist Olivia Martinez conducted her weekly sessions with crew members. The psychological effects of long-term space travel were well documented, but this mission added new stresses. They were heading toward war in an unknown system against an enemy they had never seen. "I keep dreaming about home," said one young crew member during her session. "But when I wake up, I can barely remember what Earth looks like." Martinez nodded sympathetically. "That's why we have the Earth Hours. Tonight we're sharing stories about oceans and beaches. I want you to attend." The crew member managed a small smile. "I grew up in Florida. I could talk about the Gulf." "Perfect," Martinez said. "Sharing these memories helps keep our connection to Earth alive." Captain Warren spent her evenings studying military history. She read about ancient battles, guerrilla warfare, and psychological operations. The Corvin had never encountered humans before. That might be their greatest advantage. Warren's computer chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from Admiral Holloway back on Earth. She accepted the call, and the Admiral's face appeared on her screen. "Captain Warren, how goes the journey?" Holloway asked. "Well, Admiral, the Hawking Drive is exceeding expectations. Crew morale is stable. We continue to train and prepare." Holloway nodded. "Good. We've learned more about the Corvin from the continuing Varisian transmissions. They appear to be a hive mind species. They strip planets of resources, then move on to the next world." Warren frowned. "A hive mind? That could make them dangerously coordinated in battle, or vulnerable to disruption," Holloway pointed out. "I've sent the latest intelligence to your secure channel. Review it with your officers." After the call ended, Warren summoned her senior staff to the strategy room. Commander Diane Wright, who served as Warren's first officer, arrived first. "What's the word from Earth?" Wright asked. "New intelligence on the Corvin," Warren replied. "We need to adjust our approach." When all the senior officers had gathered, Warren displayed the information from Earth. The room grew quiet as they studied the images and data about their enemy. "They look like large insects," Nichols observed, examining the blurry images of the Corvin. 6 limbs, segmented bodies. The hive mind explains their efficiency, Winters said. They don't need to communicate verbally or with technology. They simply know what each part of their collective is doing. That gives them an advantage in coordination, Warren noted, but it might also be a weakness. If we can disrupt their connection, somehow ... Dr. Rodriguez spoke up. Captain, I've been analyzing the Varisian updates. The Corvin have taken 3 outer worlds, but haven't yet reached the Varisian home planet. They seem to be methodical, harvesting each world completely before moving to the next. So we might arrive before they launch their final assault, Warren said thoughtfully. That gives us a chance to coordinate with any remaining Varisian defense forces. The planning session lasted late into the night. When it finally ended, Warren remained alone in the strategy room, studying the enemy information. The Corvin were unlike any opponent humans had faced. But humans were unlike any opponent the Corvin had faced. As the 6th month of the journey began, the fleet's long-range sensors detected the first signs of the Varisian system radiation patterns from its sun. They were still far away, but getting closer each day got the training intensified. Nichols' fighter squadron, now calling themselves the Hammerheads, set new records in the combat simulations. Security teams under Lieutenant Brandon Mills practiced boarding operations and ground combat. Weapons officers ran endless drills on the main gun battery's dot in the quiet hours of ship's night. Warren stood at the main viewport on the bridge. The stars stretched before her, no longer static points of light, but streaks as the Hawking Drive bent space around the fleet. Trouble sleeping, Captain? Asked Commander Wright, who had bridge duty. Just thinking, Warren replied. 17 light years from Earth, farther than any humans have gone before, and we're going to fight a war. A just war, Wright said. They asked for our help. Warren nodded. Yes, and we answered. She turned from the viewport. Status report? All. Systems normal. The fleet maintains formation. Estimated arrival at the edge of the Varisian system in 6 months, 3 days. Good. Keep me informed of any changes. As Warren headed back to her quarters, she passed crew members in the corridors. Some looked tired, others determined. All carried the weight of their mission. They were Earth's answer to a desperate plea Deathworlders, coming to the rescue of a peaceful species that couldn't defend itself. The Corvin had no idea what was heading their way. The Earth fleet emerged from Hawking space at the edge of the Varisian system. The transition back to normal space sent a small shudder through each ship. On the bridge of the UEF Intrepid, Captain Grace Warren steadied herself against her command chair. Transition complete, Captain, reported the navigation officer. All ships accounted for. Warren nodded. Implement communications blackout. No transmissions unless absolutely necessary. The first images of the Varisian system appeared on the HON. Main view screen. The star at its center burned yellow-orange, similar to Earth's sun, but slightly smaller. 8 planets orbited it. According to the information they had received, the Varisians called the 4th planet home. Long-range sensors detecting debris fields around the outer planets, said the sensor officer. Consistent with battle aftermath. Warren's expression remained calm, but her eyes narrowed slightly. Deploy stealth scouts. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we announce our presence. Commander Nicole Reeves led the scout mission. Her 3 small vessels were designed for reconnaissance, with advanced stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to standard sensors. As the main fleet waited behind the system's 8th planet, using its mass to help hide their presence, the scouts moved inward toward the war zone. Hours later, Commander Reeves returned with her report. The senior officers gathered in the strategy room to hear her findings. The Corvin have established control over the 3 outer planets, Reeves explained, displaying images on the room's main screen. They've built large orbital platforms around each world. From what we can observe, they appear to be systematically stripping resources. What about the Varisian homeworld? Warren asked. Under blockade, but not yet invaded, Reeves replied. The Corvin have positioned a fleet in orbit. They've destroyed most of the Varisian orbital defenses, but haven't yet landed in force. So they're still alive down there, Lieutenant Commander Nichols said. Yes, Reeves confirmed. And they've detected our arrival. We received a transmission from the surface about an hour ago. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. I've analyzed the message. They're requesting direct communication with our leaders. Warren considered this. We need to know more about what we're facing. Arrange the communication, but maintain our position behind. The 8th planet for now. Let's not show the Corvin all our cards at once. In the communications center, Rodriguez worked with his team to establish a secure channel to the Varisian leadership. When the connection was made, the view screen showed a being unlike any the humans had seen before. The Varisian had smooth blue-gray skin, large eyes with no visible pupils, and a slender body. When it spoke, its mouth barely moved, but the words came through the translation matrix clearly. We are the Council of Varisia. We thank you for answering our plea. The voice sounded both relieved and desperate. I am Captain Grace Warren of Earth, Warren replied. We've come to help, but we need to understand the situation fully. The Varisian seemed to sag slightly. We are a peaceful species. For generations, we explored the stars and built colonies on our system's outer worlds. We never developed weapons of war. We never needed them, until the Corvin arrived. Images appeared, showing the Corvin ships first entering the Varisian system, the initial attempts at communication, and then the sudden attack. They gave no warning, the Varisian continued. They destroyed our colony on the 7th planet in a single day. Millions died. We tried to evacuate our other colonies, but they moved too quickly. We watched 3 of our worlds fall. Billions of lives extinguished. Warren kept her expression professional, but she felt a cold anger building inside her. What do they want? Everything, the Varisian replied simply. They strip planets of all resources. Minerals, water, organic matter. Everything that can be used or consumed. They leave nothing behind. And now they're positioned to attack your homeworld. Warren said, double quotes, yes. We have 10 billion people here. Nowhere to run. The Varisian leaned closer to whatever device they were using to communicate. We cannot match their brutality. We have improvised some defenses, but we are not warriors. Warren nodded. We received your call. Earth has answered. I need to know everything you can tell me about their ships, their weapons, their tactics. As the Varisian shared information, Intelligence Officer Evan Clark was already analyzing the Corvin communication patterns that the fleet's passive arrays had intercepted. They're definitely hierarchical, Clark reported later in the strategy. Room, but with distributed processing nodes. From what I can tell, they have command vessels that coordinate larger groups of ships. So if we take out these command vessels, Warren began. Clark nodded. The rest will suffer cascading efficiency failures. They won't stop fighting, but they'll be less coordinated, more vulnerable. The human fleet maintained its position behind. The gas giant, using its magnetic field to mask their emissions. For 3 days, they gathered intelligence and developed their battle plan. The Corvin showed no sign of detecting their presence. Warren called a final strategy meeting with all ship captains. We have one significant advantage, she told them. The Corvin don't know we're here, and they have no experience fighting humans. They won't expect our tactics or capabilities. She outlined her plan. It was daring and complex, involving multiple coordinated strikes designed to fragment the Corvin forces and prevent them from bringing their numerical advantage to bear all at once. The UEF Intrepid will lead the primary assault group, Warren continued. Captain Daniels, your UEF Thunderchild, will command the secondary group. Commander Wright will coordinate from our mobile headquarters position. The captains asked questions, suggested refinements, and eventually agreed on the final approach. As they returned to their ships, Warren felt the weight of command more heavily than ever before. Earth had never fought an interstellar war. There were no precedents, no established doctrines to follow. Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez continued working with the Varisian scientists to improve their communications. He made a troubling discovery. Captain, he reported to Warren in her ready room, the Varisians have been monitoring Corvan communications as best they can. The Corvan don't take prisoners. They show no interest in negotiation. They consume worlds completely before moving on. So this isn't just about helping the Varisians, Warren said slowly. No, Captain. If the Corvan finish here, they'll eventually find their way to other systems. Maybe to Earth. We're not just fighting for the Varisians. We're preventing a future threat to our own world. Warren walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars of an alien system. Somewhere out there, the Corvan were preparing to destroy civilization. They had no idea that humans had arrived Deathworlders from a harsh planet, bringing with them the strength and determination forged by evolution in Earth's unforgiving environments. Send the final preparation orders, Warren told her communications. Officer, we attack in 6 hours. Throughout the fleet, fighters were fueled and armed. Weapons systems were brought to full readiness. Troops prepared for possible ground deployment. Medical bays cleared space for casualties. Lieutenant Commander. Nichols addressed his fighter pilots one last time. The Corvan have never faced humans before. Show them why Earth is called a death world. In her quarters, Captain Warren recorded a brief message to be sent to Earth after the battle, whatever its outcome. Then she put on her uniform jacket, straightened her insignia, and headed for the bridge. The time for planning and preparation was over. The battle for Varisia was about to begin. The bridge of the UEF Intrepid was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. Captain Grace Warren stood at the center, watching the tactical display. The Earth fleet was in position. The Corvan remained unaware of their presence. All ships report ready, Captain, said Commander Wright. Warren nodded. Begin Operation Thunderstrike. The first phase of the battle began with no ships moving at all. Instead, specialized EMP weapons launched from the human fleet, designed to temporarily disable the Corvan communication network. The weapons moved silently through space, their small size making them nearly impossible to detect. Lieutenant Commander Peter Nichols sat in his fighter, waiting for the signal. His squadron, the Hammerheads, would lead the first attack wave. Once the EMPs did their work, remember your training, he said over the comm to his pilots. These aren't simulation targets anymore. Stay with your wingmen. Watch your six. Come home alive. On the Intrepid's bridge, Intelligence Officer Evan Clark monitored the Corvan communications. EMP weapons reaching target area in 5.4. 3.2.1. The tactical display showed a cascade of red Corvan communication nodes suddenly going dark. EMPs successful, Clark reported. Corvan communications disrupted. Estimated window of confusion, 11 minutes. Launch fighters, Warren ordered immediately. All ships advanced to attack positions. Nichols felt his fighter launch from the carrier bay. Around him, dozens of other fighters joined formation. They accelerated toward the Corvan blockade fleet, which was now visible ahead. The Corvan ships were unlike any human vessels. They had a segmented appearance, like the bodies of the insect-like beings that controlled them. As the human fighters approached, The Corvin ships seemed to be moving erratically, their coordinated defense temporarily shattered by the EMP attack. "Targeting largest vessel, Sector 4, Nichols called. "Hammerheads, follow my lead." The fighters dove toward their target, a massive Corvin ship that intelligence had identified as a command vessel. They released their torpedoes in perfect sequence, the weapons streaking through space toward the vulnerable target. Behind the fighter screen, Earth's destroyers moved into position and launched devastating torpedo salvos against other Corvin capital ships. For 11 precious minutes, the Corvin fleet struggled to coordinate a response as the human attack struck them from multiple vectors. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Warren watched as the first wave of attacks hit home. Multiple Corvin vessels showed signs of damage. "Direct hits on 3 command vessels," reported the tactical officer. "Corvin fleet showing reduced coordination." But the Corvin recovered faster than expected. Their communications began to re-establish, and their counterattack came swiftly. Energy beams lanced out from several Corvin vessels, targeting the UEF Sacramento. The destroyer tried to evade, but the beams cut through its defenses. "Sacramento, taking heavy damage," Wright reported, her voice tense but controlled. "Their engine section is hit." Warren watched as the Sacramento signal flickered on the tactical display. "Order immediate evacuation. Send rescue ships." The Corvin weapons showed destructive capability beyond what the humans had anticipated. Captain Heather Daniels of the UEF Thunderchild quickly adjusted tactics. "All ships in Strike Group 2, implement random microjumps," Daniels ordered. "Don't maintain steady course." The human vessels began making unpredictable short jumps using their Hawking drives, confusing the Corvin targeting systems. It wasn't how the drives were designed to be used, and Chief Engineer Winters worried about the strain on the equipment. But it worked. The Corvin hit rate dropped significantly. In space, Lieutenant Sanchez's fighter spun to avoid enemy fire. "They're adapting to our attack pattern," she called to Nichols. "We need to change tactics." "Agreed," Nichols responded. "All fighters break into pairs. Hit-and-run attacks only. Don't stay in one place." The battle spread across the Verision system. On the 4th planet, the Verision homeworld, Corvin landing ships began descending despite the space battle raging above. They were determined to begin their ground invasion. Major Brandon Mills led a small team of human soldiers to the surface in stealth dropships. Their mission was to coordinate with the Verision resistance and establish guidance systems for orbital strikes. "We need to place these targeting beacons at strategic points," Mills told the Verision fighters who met them. The aliens looked frightened but determined, holding improvised weapons. "We know the locations of their landing zones," said the Verision leader. "We can guide you." As the space battle continued, Chief Engineer Winters worked frantically on the shoe, intrepid to implement his theoretical countermeasure. The Takin pulse device was untested, but if it worked, it could disrupt the Corvin hive communication at a fundamental level. "Captain, the device is ready," Winters reported to Warren. "But we need to get closer to their main fleet concentration for it to be effective." Warren considered the risk. Moving the Intrepid closer to the center of the Corvin fleet would put her ship in grave danger. But if Winters' device worked, it could turn the tide of battle. "Plot an approach course," she ordered. "All defensive systems at maximum." The Intrepid broke from the main Earth formation and drove toward the heart of the Corvin fleet. Enemy weapons fire intensified as they recognized the human flagship. "Shields at 60%, reported the defensive systems officer as the ship shuddered under Corvin fire. "Hold course," Warren commanded, her knuckles white as she gripped the arms of her chair. "Get us within deployment range of that device." On the surface of the Verision homeworld, Mills and his team completed setting up the targeting network. "Orbital strike support online," he reported to the fleet. "Sending targeting data now." Earth destroyers immediately began precision strikes against Corvin ground forces, stopping their advance toward the main Varisian cities. The Intrepid pushed deeper into the Corvin formation, taking heavy damage but staying operational. "We're in range," Winters called from engineering. "Tachyon pulse ready to deploy." "Do it," Warren ordered. The device activated, sending invisible waves of Tachyon particles through space. These particles disrupted the quantum-level communication that linked the Corvin hive mind. The effect was immediate. Corvin ships, suddenly isolated from the collective intelligence, began acting independently without coordination. Some continued, fighting effectively, but others made tactical errors or targeted the wrong vessels. "It's working," Clark reported, watching the Corvin communication patterns collapse into chaos. "Their coordination is falling apart." Warren saw her opportunity. "All batteries, target the Corvin flagship. Concentrated fire." The Intrepid's weapons systems, among the most powerful ever built by humans, unleashed their full force on the massive Corvin command vessel. The enemy ship's defenses, already weakened by the earlier torpedo strikes, began to fail under the onslaught. "Their shields are down," reported the weapons officer. "Hull breaches detected." "Continue firing," Warren ordered, her voice steady. Despite the Intrepid shuddering, as it took more hits from surrounding, Corvin vessels. The Corvin flagship's central section exploded suddenly, the blast rippling outward through its segmented structure. Secondary explosions followed as power systems failed catastrophically. "Enemy flagship destroyed," Wright announced, unable to keep a note of triumph from her voice. Throughout the battlefield, the remaining Corvin ships showed immediate signs of disarray. Without their central command node, and with their hive communication disrupted by the Tachyon pulse, their once fearsome coordination vanished. "All ships, press the advantage," Warren ordered. "Target remaining command vessels." The Earth fleet, though damaged, moved with renewed purpose. The tide of battle had turned. The Deathworlders had brought something the Corvin had never encountered before: human ingenuity and adaptability. As the Intrepid limped away from the heart of the battle, Warren allowed herself a small smile. The Varisians' call for help had been answered. Earth had proven itself on the galactic stage. The battle for the Varisian system lasted 27 hours after the destruction of the Corvin flagship. Without their central command, and with their hive mind communication disrupted, the remaining Corvin ships fought on, but with decreasing effectiveness. One by one, they were destroyed or disabled by the Earth fleet. Captain Grace Warren stood on the bridge of the UEF Intrepid, exhausted but alert. Her ship had taken significant damage. Parts of the lower decks were exposed to space. The medical bay was filled with injured crew members. "Status report," she requested, her voice hoarse from giving orders for more than a day without rest. "All remaining Corvin vessels have been neutralized except for one," Commander Wright replied. "It's making a run toward the Varisian homeworld." Warren straightened in her chair. "Intercept course, maximum speed." The Intrepid's engines strained as the damaged ship changed direction to pursue the last Corvin vessel. Tactical analysis showed the enemy ship was heavily damaged, but still moving fast. "Captain, the Corvin ship is accelerating," reported the sensor officer. "Energy readings suggest they're overloading their power core." Warren understood immediately. They're going to self-destruct near the planet. The radiation would kill millions. The Intrepid couldn't catch the Corvin ship in time. But a squadron of fighters was closer, returning from an attack run on one of the other targets. "Hammerhead Squadron, intercept that Corvin ship," Warren ordered over the com. "Stop it at all costs." Lieutenant Commander Nichols received the order and redirected his fighters. Only 4 remained from his original 12. "We're on it, Captain." Lieutenant Paula Sanchez was closest to the Corvin ship. Her fighter was damaged from earlier combat, but its weapons still worked. She pushed her engines to maximum, racing to intercept. "I can catch it," she called to Nichols. "But I don't have enough firepower to stop it." Nichols checked his tactical display. The other fighters wouldn't reach the Corvin ship in time. "Fall back, Lieutenant. That's an order." There was a pause before Sanchez responded. "Sorry, sir. Too many people down there." Sanchez cut her communication and aimed her fighter directly at the Corvin vessel. She fired her remaining weapons at the enemy ship's engines, causing some damage, but not enough to stop it. The Corvin ship continued its suicide run toward the planet. On the Intrepid's bridge, they watched as Sanchez's fighter closed with the enemy vessel. "What is she doing?" Wright asked. Warren watched, her face grim. "What she has to." Sanchez's fighter crashed into the Corvin ship's main propulsion system at full speed. The resulting explosion tore through the enemy vessel, setting off secondary explosions throughout its structure. The Corvin ship broke apart, its pieces scattering into harmless debris well away from the planet. Silence fell on the Intrepid's bridge. Lieutenant Paula Sanchez had become the first human to die in defense of another species. "Note in the log," Warren said quietly. Lieutenant Sanchez gave her life to save the Varisian homeworld. Her actions embody the highest traditions of the Earth Fleet. 3 days later, the recovery and repair operations were well underway. Earth had lost 3 ships and hundreds of crew members in the battle, but had saved billions of Varisians and potentially Earth itself from future Corvin attacks. Major Mills and his ground team had returned from the surface, bringing with them the Varisian High Council's formal invitation for Earth representatives to visit their capital city. Captain Warren led a small delegation to the surface. The Varisian planet was beautiful, with purple-tinged vegetation and graceful architecture that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. The Varisian High Council received them in an ancient circular chamber called the Hall of Communion. Thousands of Varisians lined the streets as the humans passed, making soft musical sounds that Dr. Rodriguez said was their way of showing deep gratitude. The Varisian Prime Speaker addressed Warren and her officers. "Your species came from a world we considered too harsh to produce civilization," the alien admitted through the translation device. "We called you Deathworlders among ourselves, those who evolved in crucibles of struggle. Today, we understand that such origins can forge not just strength, but compassion." Warren bowed slightly. "Earth answered your call because we believe that civilization means helping those in need. Your people and ours are not so different in the things that truly matter." 2 weeks later, Admiral Holloway arrived with the relief fleet from Earth. He brought supplies, additional medical personnel, and engineers to help rebuild the damaged Varisian worlds. In a meeting room aboard the UEF Intrepid, Holloway and Warren met with the Varisian leaders to discuss the future relationship between their peoples. "Earth would like to establish a permanent presence in your system," Holloway explained, "not as conquerors, but as allies. We can help rebuild your worlds, and in exchange, we hope to learn from your technology and knowledge." The Varisians agreed readily. More importantly, they proposed a mutual defense pact, the first interstellar alliance in human history. Dr. Rodriguez brought interesting news to Warren and Holloway after the meeting. "The battle is becoming known throughout nearby systems," he reported. "Several species under threat from similar aggressors have already sent preliminary communications asking about possible human assistance. The Deathworlders of Earth are becoming something of a legend," Wright added with a small smile. That evening, Captain Warren stood on the observation deck of the Intrepid, watching as human and Varisian engineers worked side by side on reconstruction efforts. Lieutenant Commander Nichols joined her, still mourning the pilots lost under his command. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked quietly. "Coming here, fighting someone else's war?" Warren considered the question, watching a Varisian child presenting a ceremonial flower to one of her security officers. "It wasn't someone else's war," she replied. "The moment we received their message, it became our responsibility. That's what civilization means answering when someone cries for help." The Earth fleet prepared for the journey home, leaving behind a contingent to assist the Varisians. Admiral Holloway would remain to oversee the establishment of Earth's first extraterrestrial base and to coordinate the new Alliance dot as the UEF Intrepid prepared to depart. Warren received a message from Earth. New distress calls had been detected. From other systems, Earth's leaders were asking if she would consider another mission after the Intrepid was repaired. Warren looked around her damaged but proud ship, thought of the crew who had followed her into humanity's first interstellar battle, and remembered Lieutenant Sanchez's sacrifice. The decision wasn't difficult. "Tell them we'll be ready," she said. Across dozens of worlds facing threats from forces of conquest and destruction, a new message was spreading from system to system. It carried both hope and warning. "If darkness comes, call Earth, the Deathworlders. We'll answer." As the UEF Intrepid broke orbit and prepared for the journey home, Warren knew that humanity had found its place among the stars, not just as explorers, but as defenders of those who could not defend themselves. The Deathworlders had answered the cry for help, and they would answer again.